So this was work that I did with my advisor, Stephen Roberts, and our collaborator, Jennifer Everhart. And we had happened to be doing some survey work out in the field with white and Black families in April of 2020. So obviously before Floyd was murdered and after his murder and kind of the ensuing surge in attention and protest, we decided that we had a really interesting chance to see like what has changed, if anything, like what, everyone was saying, this is a moment that's going to really change things. So we felt really uniquely positioned to be able to begin to answer that question.
Just a quick reminder to folks that Floyd was killed in late May of 2020, and you said you were doing your work in April, the first survey in April. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. So Floyd is killed late May, so about 6 weeks after we had started doing our work. And so then we ran kind of a second batch of the exact same study in June of 2020. So about 3 to 4 weeks after Floyd's death. So we kind of have right before and right after with different families, but a way to kind of really see what has changed in this time. And I think, so for Black families, first of all, in general, Black families were already much more likely to be talking about issues of race and identity with their children than white families were. And they were more likely to be sharing messages, really trying to prepare their kids for the biases they might face. And that just increased after Floyd. They were much more likely to talk about racial inequality with their children. They were having more frequent conversations, they told us, and they were even more likely than they already had been to send these messages, really kind of doing things like telling their kids how to interact around police officers, right? Even children as young as 5 years old or 4 years old were being told, hey, here's what you need to do if you run into a police officer. Here's what you need to do in this situation. So really that kind of preparatory message. And we also found that they were just more worried. They were more concerned that their kids were going to be targets of racial bias, even though that was already something on all of their minds before Floyd. And then for white families, I think for us, what we saw pretty much was that white families didn't really change. They weren't more likely to have conversations. They weren't changing how frequently they were having them. They were actually less likely to have conversations around white identity, so what it meant to be white with their children after Floyd than they were before. And they were more likely, when they were having these conversations, to be sending colorblind messages. So trying to emphasize messages like, oh, everyone is equal, or the color of your skin doesn't matter. What matters is who you are on the inside, which we can talk about this. We know that those, might sound really nice on the surface, but if you dig into them, they tend to pretty much have harmful consequences for children's understanding of race. And so that was pretty jarring to us. I think, this moment that we expected to maybe see this big change, we mostly saw kind of a flatness.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, what does it take? Such a big moment, and a lot of those same people who weren't talking to their kids probably were responding in other ways, just not bringing it home, right?